Oh yeah, just got back from watching The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's 2026 movie, shot entirely on IMAX. And yeah, I went to the Regal Theater. As you guys know, I'm a collector of getting these cups and popcorn buckets. I can't help myself. And sure enough, when The Odyssey came out, I saw that they were holding two types of popcorn buckets. They had one that was entirely on IMAX, this popcorn bucket, and I was like, no. And then they had this one, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get the horse. It's pretty cool. Check it out. This is where you put the popcorn in it. You know, you got the little, you can fit like a bunch of it in this whole entire horse if you wanted to. You close it up, and then there you go. But enough of the horse stuff. Talking about the film, because there's a lot to talk about here. Normally when I do certain films, just know I'm not going to do spoiler discussions for every single type of movie that I review. But for this one, I'm actually debating if I want to. Let me know if you guys think that I should do a spoiler discussion video, because there is quite a bit to say here, but at the exact same time, this is just one of those movies where I'm like, you know, it's nothing new. It's kind of a trend that Hollywood is doing right now. And it is getting to the point where it is getting kind of tiring to see a film come out, and instead of talking about the film itself, it's always the situation surrounding the film. And I think that's really unfortunate, because I think The Odyssey is a really great story. I've read the novel. I went with a good buddy of mine, and he never read the novel. He's never even seen any old interpretations of The Odyssey that has been filmed before. I have. I've seen the 1997 Odyssey, and I'm going to be honest with you. If I had to pick between the 1997 version or Christopher Nolan's, I'd rather pick the 1997. If I'm being honest with you, and I'm going to get into that. But of course, this is non-spoilers, you know, so I'm not going to give anything away, but I am going to be honest with you on what I liked and what I didn't like. So, The Odyssey, directed by Christopher Nolan. This movie has a lot going for it, bro. This is by far Christopher Nolan's highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes. I believe it's at a 98, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, if I'm being honest with you. According to the score, it beat Oppenheimer, but I'm going to be honest with you, I like Oppenheimer more than I did this movie, and that's unfortunate, because even though I think Oppenheimer is a great movie, don't get me wrong, long, but a great movie, this is pretty much the same thing, but not as interesting. So let's start off with the positives of the film. The performers in the movie. Despite the controversy, which is what I'll talk about in the end, I think everybody that was casted in the film did do a good job, and I have to be fair about it. Matt Damon and Christopher Nolan are clearly going to get nominated in the Oscars, that's for sure, especially Matt Damon. Matt Damon has been quoted as saying that this is by far his most toughest job ever as an actor that he has had to done for a film of some kind, and I believe it. The Odyssey is a really, really complicated story to kind of get around through it, as well as to even perform. And with the way how Christopher Nolan does his movies, yeah, I can tell it's quite the challenge here for him to get into character for the movie of The Odyssey, him to play the character of Odysseus. And I would even say, not once did I hate his performance. It takes a minute for you to get used to it because of the way how they use the dialogue in the film, which I'll talk about later. But he does a good job with what he's given. Tom Holland, I thought he was fine. He didn't do a bad job at all. Anna Hathaway, I thought, did a good job. There's times where she really went into character, and I was like, all right, I'll give her credit. She really did do a good job playing Odysseus' wife. Robert Pattinson, I hated him, but in a good way. Like, he is pretty much the antagonist of the film, and I thought he did a phenomenal job here. I was like, I hate you. I hope you get what's coming to you in the end. He did a good job making me hate his character. To be honest with you, first, I'm going to be real with you. I know a lot of people talk about this, but I'm being honest here. I have to be honest. My favorite actor in the film was actually John Leguizamo. He actually does a really good job in the film with the material that he was given. He plays his character who's basically blind. He trained Odysseus, if I remember correctly. Then he, at a certain point, is training his son. And again, this isn't the novel. This isn't a spoiler. You know, there are some things about the film that I'll talk about later. John Leguizamo in the film, I kind of thought was ridiculous, and it is just because of the casting, but he actually does a phenomenal job here. I actually liked his character once you kind of get past the whole controversy stuff. He really stands out here in a way. I've seen him perform like I've never seen him perform before in a movie, and I think this really shows it. So does John Leguizamo still have it as a performer? I genuinely think he does, if it's under the right material. The visuals in the film, I will be honest with you. The way how the film is made, I would definitely say Christopher Nolan makes it very clear that he's not a fan of visual effects, but here the visual effects that he uses in the film actually came off pretty polished. They were very clean. The film, believe it or not, even though it can be dark at times, is very colorful. I actually was watching it the entire time. The fight scenes in the film, I'll talk about that. I will tell you right now, they're pretty exciting. The story when Odysseus is invading Troy with the horse, that was, for me at least, the best part of the film. I liked that. And believe it or not, I will just say this, It's pretty early on in the film. And I will even tell you, the part with the horse, we all know the story about how they hid in the horse, and then at night they came out of it, and then they started opening the gates, and that's when everybody came in and invaded Troy. The combat, I thought, was exciting at times. The story had some modifications. I thought that it was fine for what Christopher Nolan did here, but I think there needed to be some improvement. I'm gonna be honest with you. But again, sticking with the positives, the music was fine. I heard something about the fact because like the music that people wanted him to use wasn't really made at the time, so he wanted to try to make it in a certain perspective, I guess, so that's what he did. I didn't really pay attention to that, to be honest with you, and it didn't necessarily bother me, nor did it take away from the film. I will also say, using practical effects, Christopher Nolan's really good at that. He loves practical effects. You could tell they're on an actual ship. You could tell they're shooting at authentic locations. You can most certainly tell that the gear, the armor is very real. There's nothing necessarily CGI unless it gets to the part of certain aspects of the film, I'll say that. What else about the film that I think they did really good on? Christopher Nolan's direction. I would like for him to do another type of Gladiator film if it's made of his own accord, not based off something else, because there's just some things here that I honestly didn't really agree with. I think the fact that the film was shot in IMAX really makes this film stand out. IMAX is the best way to go. I'm gonna be honest with you. I went to the Regal Theater, I checked all the schedules for the Odyssey, and the only one that was sold out was the 4DX experience in the 70mm screen. And that was the only one that was filled. If you try to watch this film, at least from where I'm at, in standard, RPX, 4DX, which is the way how I saw this movie, they're not really as full. Some of them are kind of empty, even, if I'm being honest with you. But if you choose to watch this in IMAX, then I would highly recommend that would be the best choice for you to do it, because it's shot in IMAX, so better to have the full IMAX experience if I was you. Now, talking about the negatives. Oh boy, the negatives. I'm gonna start out with this. The story. I had problems with the story. This movie does not go off the story of the Odyssey in its entirety. Christopher Nolan made some changes, and I think he made some changes on purpose, mainly because of the casting, if I'm being honest with you. There were certain things that happened right off the bat of the movie where I was like, this character wasn't there. The character's over here. Why is the character here? Is it because of who he casted? Is that why? Okay, wait, that happened. Yeah, the island happened. But then this character came, and they never did that here. Okay, yeah, this happened, but there was a character over here that was doing this thing because she thought this happened, and they never did that. So how did that happen? Okay, I like that, but what the fuck? It got to the point where there were some changes in the movie where I was like, wait, why did you change that? Like, he left some things out, and it surprised me because the film, the runtime, is almost 3 hours long. This is a long movie verse. I've seen longer, I'll be honest with you, but this movie is practically 2 hours and 52 minutes. It is a long film. My buddy at times got bored, alright? He wasn't even on his phone. At one point, I had to tell my buddy Mike, I was like, put your phone away. And he just went, yeah, fuck you. And he basically just lowered the brightness and was on his phone because he got so bored. And he never read the Odyssey. So I was looking at him like, oh wow, like, yeah, that's how you could tell this film was dragging. I've seen people get up and just go to the bathroom like it was nothing, you know? I didn't go at all because I didn't want to miss anything because it's Christopher Nolan. Everybody loves Christopher Nolan because his films, even though they're long and confusing, they're very interesting, you know, because of the concepts that he does in his films. You know, these ideas like Tenet, Inception, obviously, and he recreated the story of Oppenheimer creating the first nuclear bomb, all that stuff. You know, they're very interesting stories that he picks. That's why he stands out so well. And for this one to do the Odyssey, I was actually excited for it until I started watching it, and I was like, I'm also gonna say this too, the pacing of the film drags quite a bit. There are scenes in the film where I was like, I know it was not that long. There's no fucking way it was that long. Absolutely not. I just don't see that. Especially, I'm going to say this one thing at the very end. At the very end, there were scenes where I was like, that did not happen. There was times where it got me thinking of the movie Gods and Kings. You know, that was based off the movie of the Bible, that chapter of Exodus, right? Where, like, you watched the movie, and there was times where Ridley Scott was showing where, like, God was about to divide the sea, how they were showing them, like, preparing to fight the Egyptians, going into combat, like, fighting arrows, and I was like, that never happened. Wait, what? I was reading my Bible again. I was like, wait a minute. I don't remember that in Exodus. When did that happen? And then when it comes down to the casting of the film, I haven't seen a casting this crazy or controversial since Gods of Egypt. Remember that shitty ass film where it was based in Egypt and there wasn't a single Egyptian actor? Everybody was white. I was like, wait a minute. And then here for the Odyssey, clearly the soldiers as well as Odysseus and everybody that's in it, they're Greek. And there's not a single Greek actor casted. Not one. Like I said earlier, a lot of people aren't really seeing the film to my knowledge. It has a high rating, but it doesn't mean that people are going out to see this. I saw a lot of empty seats when I was looking for the seating arrangement for wanting to go see this film. There were a lot of seats in the theaters, at least from where I was at. And I don't know if it's going to pick up later on. Will the film be successful? I'm going to be honest with you, maybe. I don't think it's going to do bad because it's Christopher Nolan, and a lot of people love Christopher Nolan, but I don't really think it's going to be as successful as I think they wanted to. I'm being brave saying that right now because it's still very early. I'm seeing this on Thursday, by the way, a day earlier than the official date that's supposed to come out. I got an early screening of it. I like to see this as soon as possible so I can give you guys a review as soon as possible. I will also say about the film, it shies away from combat sometimes. There are times where like literally it zooms in and it's about to show someone getting their throat slit and then the camera just moves away and you're like, wait, why did you do that? Like, just show the combat. Sometimes it shows the gore and then sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why Nolan was afraid to show that sometimes. The armor in the film, I will also say it's a positive and a negative. When they show that armor from the first trailer of that one soldier that was just there, the general, right, with that spine in the back, I looked at that armor and I was like, fuck, that was super cool, but it's inaccurate. Unfortunately, from what I heard, the armor at the time was not like that. It's very exaggerated. To me, it was kind of whatever. I didn't mind it. The film, to me, I will say, could have been 20 minutes less than what it was. It just went on too long where I was like, nah, this is not Christopher Nolan's best movie ever. I don't think he has a bad movie at all, but I will say, is this his strongest? Nah, absolutely not. My friend did not like it at all. He had to change his rating a few times because he didn't understand my score that I was giving it. So I'm going to get down to the final verdict now. For my final verdict of the Odyssey, and I have to be fair when talking about a film, despite how I may feel about it, is a 7 out of 10. This is a great film, and I'm going to tell you why. Despite the controversy, despite things that are going around it, despite the casting of the film, it doesn't necessarily mean that the film is awful. It honestly doesn't, okay? There are problems with the story, yes. There are issues with the casting, absolutely. There's no shying around that. I don't know why they decided to do that. And I will say, it angers me that when you see a film like this nowadays, because Hollywood has to kind of like make an interpretation of some things just because of how it is in modern time, that they feel the need to just want to say, you know what, we can add some adjustments, and then it's adjustments that you're kind of like, but that doesn't really fit here. Here's one that I'm going to talk about. The dialect, okay? The dialect here does not work for the Odyssey. They don't talk at all like, have you seen the 2004 Troy movie with Brad Pitt? There was a scene where he was fighting, and then like when one of the characters falls down, he's like, get up, I will not let a stone take my victory from me. Here in the movie, there's nothing like that. There's no dialogue like that at all. There's literally times where they are talking, and there's one scene in particular where Matt Damon's like, let's go, and you're like, I don't remember them talking like that. Or the famous interview that's going on with Tom Holland where someone had asked him, like, you know, there was a sneak peek where you're talking to somebody and then he says, well, my dad will be back. And it's like, don't you mean to say father? Like, not my dad or my daddy. Father? My father will be back.
Language as well is very modern. You say dad rather than father.
Because I wouldn't have even said father back in the day, would I? I would have been in Greek.
When you look at the ancient world, there's a lot of cultural prejudice. There's a lot of, they're sort of elevating it because it's old, you know, whatever it is. I just want to make it feel very fresh for modern audiences.
After a minute, you do kind of get used to it, but it does take away from the source material because you're like, this is the Odyssey, right? Like, I don't really remember them talking in a certain dialect like that, so it was distracting. But the movie, though, wasn't really awful. It's one of those movies where you're either going to like it or you're not. For me, personally, I didn't like it, despite the score that I'm giving it. It is a good movie, for what it is, because it's Christopher Nolan, it's an IMAX, performers were good, despite the fact that they weren't Greek, they weren't accurate at all. There was adjustments to the story, you know, but everything else with it, though, I thought was fine. I'm not gonna give it a really bad rating just because I don't like it. I will say, I think films like this do have to stick to source material. It's just like a superhero film. If you're making a movie based off a comic, then stick to the comic, because that's what people know the comic for. They want to see that story, not you adding your 2 cents into it because you have a different interpretation. People don't like that. For the Odyssey, either you see it or you don't. That's honestly how it's gonna be for me when it comes down to that film. And for the spoiler discussion, like I said, I don't know. I'll think about it, but I'm not really in a rush to do it, and nor will I think I will. Honestly, Verse, let me know what you guys think about the Odyssey, you know? Are you guys gonna watch it? Are you guys not? If you have seen it, what do you guys think about it? My buddy, wanted to mention him real quick, gave it a 6 out of 10. He thought it was above average. And you know what? Maybe he is right on that. I think it is a 6 out of 10 for sure. I think it's a 7 out of 10 though, only because of the fact that, you know, other than the fact that it's Christopher Nolan, just a lot of the way how it came off was really visually well done. Now, other than the visuals, the performance was really good. Fight scenes were there. They just didn't really go into it. Like if you were to watch Gladiator 2 or Troy or anything like that, it just really wasn't as gruesome as stuff like that. And then even the story, I will say there were some things about it that I did like, where I was like, wow, like they actually, okay, that was interesting. I never thought I would see something like that. But then there were other things where I was like, you could have done more of that, and instead you focus on this, and that did not need to be as long. So again, it's kind of, it depends on your perspective, I will say that. There were people in the theater that when it ended, they cheered. One guy went, woo! Like he screamed his ass off, and I remember I was like, damn, you liked it that much? I was like, whoa, okay, you liked it more than me. Again, it really depends on your perspective. If you either know the story of the Odyssey or you just don't care and you just want to see it for what it is. Yeah, it's one of those movies where it's gonna be split in the middle for sure. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think though, Verse. This is really complicated to talk about, but usually Christopher Nolan films are. These are one of those movies where you have to see more than once to really figure it out. But because this is based off a novel that I already know about, which is the Odyssey, that's why I already know about it. That's why I'm here like, I don't really like what I'm watching here. That's an interesting interpretation, okay. But other than that though, Verse, if you like what you saw, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification button for more content as always. Look forward to the next video, Verse, and with that said, I'll see you next time. Later, Verse.